We live in the land of any given Sunday. The National Football League is massively competitive, and there are no gimmies in the NFL. There are a few, if you're lucky, easy wins. There are many, if you're unlucky, surprising losses. Sometimes it feels like half the games end with, had this gone better, we win. Or, had this thing not happened, we lost. It's part of what we love about football, isn't it? It's part of what makes determining what a successful season is about to look like very difficult. It's part of what makes determining which teams are going to have such and such win-loss records and all that stuff really complicated. In this video, we are breaking down an NFL analyst perspective on what the faithful can expect from their team this season as its worst and at its best. It's juicy. The visuals are great. The talking points are exciting. I can't wait to get into it. If you're new here, I'm Nate. We are talking the San Francisco 49ers on this channel every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the action. The good news, I'll give you the snippet, and then I'm going to break it down later. The National Football League put out a full 2024 preview for the 49ers and set a floor and a ceiling that lines up super well, in my opinion, with where I sense that most of us think we're going to be this season. Spoiler, it also includes us going back to the Super Bowl, so that's exciting. We're going to break down all of that and talk floor and ceiling in a second, but first, comment below what your floor and ceiling are. So, at its worst, at the worst this season, you realistically could see what win-loss record? At the worst, realistically. Obviously, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey both get injured. You know, it's not gonna look. If Christian McCaffrey gets injured for more than a couple games, it will change the outlook for sure. So that's why I'm saying realistically. What is the worst case scenario realistically for your team this season? I'd say for the 49ers. Well, actually, I'm not gonna tell you what I think. I'm not gonna tell you, but I'll tell you. Most people are kind of in that 10-7 range in terms of the floor. Maybe 9-8, but that would be a massively unsuccessful season, despite how difficult our schedule is. At the best this season, you could realistically see what win-loss record. So tell me about the ceiling. What's the ceiling? Comment below what the ceiling is for this team. Is it lossless? Is it full all out undefeated in the regular season? That might be a little bit of a stretch. Very tough schedule. We'll get into some of that a little bit, but 13-4, 14-3. Where are you at on the side of the ceiling? I'm really excited for this. This is going to be fun, guys. This is going to be sweet. Okay, so for context's sake, there are a lot of reasons to be negative about the upcoming schedule. We've talked about this before, but it's now been probably a month or two since we've talked about it. We have, of course, a horrible rest differential this season. Everybody else is getting way more rest than we are, especially when we face them. That's the other bad news. A lot of teams we're going to be facing are coming off of bye weeks. So they're coming in super healthy, been thinking about us for 2 weeks. And we, of course, have only had, the Monday to Sunday to prepare for the game or things like that, right? So we get those tighter, shorter schedules. So the rest differential, teams coming off bye weeks, multiple short weeks. We got to throw in there, too. I mean, if you believe in it, the Madden curse. You got to be a little worried about Christian McCaffrey this season after how much he pounded the rock last season. Strength of schedule could be worse, but this is going to be far from an easy season. So when the NFL put together the preview, I was kind of excited with how they organized it. So here's what they put together. These are the games at the floor they see the 49ers winning, all right? And this is, if you take an extra minute to look at this, you're going to start to pick up on some really interesting points. But let's just start with the obvious. So they have us at the floor, the worst case scenario, beating the Jets, the Vikings, the Patriots, sweeping the Cardinals, splitting with the Rams, splitting with the Seahawks, beating the Buccaneers after a bye week, beating the high-flying Dolphins, beating Caleb Williams and the Bears. So that's the floor. Now, the rest of those games there, they don't call them or expect them to be losses. The NFL analyst just kind of says, basically, this is the floor. Those other games, they should win some of them. So the floor for the 49ers, according to this, would be 10-7. And that's assuming that we don't win any of these games that are in that, I don't know category. Okay? So Lions, Bills, Packers, Cowboys, Chiefs, Seahawks, and Rams. Both the Seahawks and the Rams games, those were the away games, if I remember correctly. But you can correct me that in the comment if I'm mistaken. So the floor is 10-7. Honestly, I'll take that. And when I say, I'm not saying I'll take 10-7, but I'll take that the floor is 10-7, meaning if we lose all of those games, which I don't think we're going to do. I don't think we're going to lose all those games. The games that we were picked to win are very winnable games. So I'm excited about that too. That's positive as well. Very winnable games. I'd say the one on there that I suppose you could have a little question mark about might be the Dolphins. And I suppose you could say the same thing about the Jets. I'm not going to go the route of we're going to say that about the Vikings. I know that the Vikings have had our number, but no, I'm not going there. So all that being said, that's the floor. Let's talk about the ceiling now. So the ceiling, at the best this season, these are all the guaranteed wins. At the best. So again, Jets, Vikings. We're adding in there that home game against the Seahawks. Obviously, Patriots, Cardinals. Then you're adding in there the Cowboys. Adding in there the Green Bay Packers again. Oof, take that one. And adding in there the Lions at the ceiling. So that ceiling being 14-3. 14-3. Which, I mean, who wouldn't take that, obviously? I mean, any team would take that. And I suppose it's worth suggesting here for a moment that it is positive when the NFL, the National Football League, and their analysts are picking you to, at best this season, be 14-3. That's great. I'll take it. I'll take 3 losses this season. No arguments there. Their actual pick for us, 13-4. So 13-4 is the actual pick. And I'm not even going to go into the game preview guy and all of that. I think a lot of energy is put on these charts based on the over-under for that team this season. So if they're just guessing. That's how they're developing a lot of these statistics based on the over-under for that team and the number of and the strength of schedule those teams have. I think that's how they're crunching this. I'm not 100% sure. But as far as I'm concerned, I still think it's awesome, and I think it's fun to look at. It's fun to think about what could happen, what would be, what could be. I could see a couple of these, just to give you an example. Which last season we started 5-3. Is that right? I think that's right. I'm going to have to double check that. But I could see a little bit of a hiccup in a couple of these early games. Like the Jets could be challenging on their defense is stout. The Jets could be challenging if let's just say for a second that the Brandon Aiyuk drama goes all the way up to the first game of the season. He plays. I don't know if they would play. I don't know if Kyle would let him play, though. But, you know, he's on the field, whatever, or our offensive game plan's a little bit fuzzy because of him and the situation. I don't know. I could see a world in which, you know, we might not start high flying if our offense is not on all cylinders from the very beginning. I think that first Rams game can be a challenging game for sure. I still think we'll win it, but I could see I originally picked us to split with the Rams, and so this would be a game that I would understand losing, right? The Kansas City game, unfortunately, is another game I could see us losing. I really think we'll have more motivation than ever to go in there and beat them and show ourselves and show them that we can beat them. That would be useful. That would be valuable. And so we'll see what happens there, but it's obviously it's a tough game. How do you act like, oh, yeah, it's a guaranteed win? It's not a guaranteed win. As much motivation as possible, but not a guaranteed win. Then interesting choice for the Bills versus the Lions. Like why, and I'm not 100% sure on this, like why would you say the Bills is a questionable game in the ceiling, but the Lions game is a guaranteed win when we're talking about the ceiling? I don't know. That's an interesting one. But look, let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear what you have to say about the floor for this football team and the ceiling for this football team this upcoming season. I'm not going to be the guy that is doom and gloom, the worst case scenario, we're going to win 4 games. We're just too talented, best roster in football. We could have 3 injuries and still be tied for 3 like top injuries and still be tied for the most top 10 players in the NFL. Like that's crazy, right? On the positive side, I'm also not going to go to the ultimate extreme and say, yeah, I can see a world in which we're undefeated. I mean, yeah, there's a bias in me that can always see that. Like, oh, I could see us win this game. I could see us win this game and do it 17 times. And you're like, yeah, I guess I could see us win every game. But it's just incredibly unrealistic. The rest differential alone should account for several losses this season. I think on those really tight games where we're playing against a team who comes off a bye and they're just fresher than we are. And it's, we have multiple Thursday night games, multiple Monday night games, which means we'll have shorter weeks on those ones as well, although it's only one day less. Still going to have several shorter weeks. It's just hard for me to imagine we're not going to have moments where we slip up. We're not going to have moments where, guys are going down injured because they're just overplayed and under-rested. So that's just my perspective. I look forward to joining in the comments, though, and talking about the floor and the ceiling with you. Let's go. And if you're one of those who thinks we're going to be undefeated, throw that in the comments. Don't be ashamed of yourself. Don't be afraid. I will love every second of that comment. Hey, 3 more days until training camp. 3 more days. I got the training camp counter up there. We are almost there, folks. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting. The rookies are already there. It's exciting. We're turning the corner finally, and it's about that time to be watching a lot more 49ers football.